You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. Couple of things to get here in the open. It is official, as we mentioned. Tommy Moffitt has been named the Director of Football Strength and Conditioning over at Texas A&M. That news had started to break on Tuesday evening while we were on the air. I reacted just very quickly to it. Mack Chuilli is going to be with us in the next segment. Mack is the founder, CEO of Traction, and has trained hundreds of major college and professional athletes, from Ryan Terrio to Serena Williams. So I want to talk to Mack about Coach Moffitt and sort of the evolving nature of strength and conditioning, because it's so interesting to me how and I thought of this because I posted on Instagram yesterday the graphic that A&M put out there announcing the Tommy Moffitt hire, and just a quick thought about Coach leaving. And what was so interesting to me is so many former LSU players commented on that post. Respect for Tom, and not only LSU players, by the way, buddy Jonathan Wells, who's a John Curtis guy who played at Ohio State, even guys like Javon Ferguson, who was a Baton Rouge kid who went and played at New Mexico State, and the guys who played for him at LSU and all over. All these players just in the comments, nothing but love and respect for Tommy Moffitt, talking about how great he is. And then you'll have random Joe fan who literally has not taken one step ever inside of football ops, bemoaning Tommy Moffitt, the game passed him by, this or that. And it's the audacity of a thought like that is so interesting to me. And we kind of went through it as well with the Corey Raymond conversation a few weeks back. How many fans have just convinced themselves of a narrative like Tommy Moffitt's past his prime, over the hill, whatever the game passed him by, got lazy in those last 2 years. Do you not realize what happened in the last 2 years? You had a head coach that was taking naked pictures in bed with women. A head coach who was trying to fight dudes on spring break in Cabo. You had a head coach that was completely disinterested whatsoever in running a program coaching football. He hired Jake Peets, Durante Jones, and Bo Pelini. Oh, by the way, there was also a global pandemic, and you had his own roster marching against him to the president's office during the BLM movement. Like, are you kidding me? And somehow fans have convinced themselves, like, Corey Raymond stopped recruiting, Tommy Moffitt quit being a good strength and conditioning court. No! You had a moronic head coach who ran the program into the ground, and he was so atrocious, they paid him $17 million to go away. The audacity of some of you to just like blanketly accept, oh, well, Tommy Moffitt, the game's passed him by. Oh, really? Because literally every player who has spoken about Tommy Moffitt that played for him lauds and respects the guy, but Go Tigers Steve 57 thinks the game passed him by. Meanwhile, dudes has never so much as stepped foot inside the football operations building at LSU to have any clue, yet makes these declarative statements. It's so comical to me. I mean, it's so stupid, it's funny. Obviously, we talked about it a little bit in the open today, but Tommy Moffitt, who's been out of coaching for a couple of years, is back in the game now at Texas A&M, heading there as the Aggie strength and conditioning coordinator. Our buddy Mack Chuilli from Traction, the founder, CEO, head trainer over at Traction, who's trained, as everyone, as I mentioned, from Ryan Terrio to Serena Williams, is good enough to jump board with us here to talk a little bit about this. Mack, we appreciate it, man. How are you?
Hey, Scone. How's it going, man?
Good, man. I appreciate a few minutes. What was your reaction when you saw the news about Tommy Moffitt going to Texas A&M?
Oh, obviously sad as an LSU fan, but extremely fired up for Coach, man. He's, what people don't realize is he could have done this over the last few years. He's had many other options for him to go, be a collegiate strength coach, and that's what his passion is. But he was obviously waiting for the right opportunity and the right time in his life, man. And I'm just pumped up for him and his family, and I know how fired up he's going to be.
It's one of the things that I mentioned as well, Mack, is Tommy's youngest, Brady, was just finished up high school a year ago at Catholic. So Clay and Aaron and Brady now all being done. It's probably a right time situation. Like, he wasn't going to move right while his son was a senior in high school. So the timing probably worked out. But I kind of wanted to get your thought as well as someone who's made an amazing career in this field. On the evolution that Tommy Moffitt's gone through, not throughout his entire career, but even just the 21 years at LSU.
Yeah, look, what people don't understand is Coach Moffitt is a pioneer in this industry. He's evolved so much over the years, and that's what's always made LSU's program extremely special. You know, his work and Jack Marucci and those guys at LSU, they've constantly evolved how to train these guys, and as the strength and conditioning industry has changed, you know, those guys have been on the forefront, the leaders of that. And you know, Coach Moffitt is a guy, you know, I'm younger than Coach, and I've always looked up to him, and I've always, you know, went to him with questions and things like that in my own career. You know, I've always been in the private sector, and his passion has always been, you know, collegiate athletes, but we constantly talked about, you know, what they were doing and what, you know, new technology, and he's always been on the forefront of that. From, you know, I when I speak all the time, I explain that, you know, the 80s, you know, was the big Olympic lifting time. You know, we all know Coach Hatch, and he was the pioneer of that. Nebraska football was the big, you know, leader in strength and conditioning. And then in the 90s, you got, you know, Florida State and Miami, you know, were so much faster, and all those guys were part of the track program. So strength and conditioning evolved from kind of Olympic lifting, and then a lot of the track, you know, training principles were included in the strength and conditioning. And then, you know, they were dealing with a lot of soft tissue injuries and stuff. You know, football players that change direction aren't the same as track athletes who sprint and lean left, right? So they were dealing with injuries, and then the big PT functional world came into it, and strength and conditioning coaches had to evolve in. And then now, today, it's metrics and technology. And look, Coach Moffitt has always been on the forefront. He was, you know, these guys were at LSU, were on the catapult system, and you know, tracking everything they've done, and he's changed year after year, you know, and he's one of these guys that has always evolved. And, you know, my biggest pet peeve in coaching of any sport has always been, you know, this is how we used to do it. And Coach Moffitt is not like that in any way, man. He's constantly learning. He's a humble guy, and he's evolved tremendously with the industry, and he's going to do fantastic things at A&M, unfortunately for us, right?
What is the catapult system?
It's just going to track how much they run, you know, how far they're running. You'll see it, you know, you'll see the different technologies, and there's a bunch of different ones, but you'll see it in NFL games now. You know, this guy got up to this many miles an hour, and he ran this far in a single game, and that's all the technology that they're using nowadays to track, you know, when guys need to lift, when they need to rest, when they need to eat, when they need to practice, when they don't, and that's kind of the new industry standard across sports and strength and conditioning programs.
Mack Chuilli is with us, founder, CEO, performance director over at Traction Sports. Spent his whole life training elite level athletes. Talking a little bit of perspective here on Tommy Moffitt. And by the way, Mack, I don't want this in any way to be disparaging toward Jake Flint, who is LSU strength and conditioning coordinator, because while we're still learning, you know, a lot of the guys on staff, I don't suspect that Jake Flint has done a bad job or done anything wrong. I mean, do you have you had any interaction or any feeling on what type of job Jake Flint and his staff have done while at LSU these past 2 seasons?
No, I think they're doing an incredible job. You know, the industry is filled with a bunch of incredible guys, and that's kind of the downfall that you were talking about earlier. Is like you almost got to bash Coach Moffitt because he's not the LSU guy anymore, and it's like, wait a minute, you know, there's great guys all over the country, and LSU has a great strength and conditioning program, and that's no knock on Coach Moffitt or anybody else, but Texas A&M just hit a home run with this hire, and it's just another great guy that LSU's got to deal with. No different than other great head coaches across NCAA collegiate athletes.
Matt, you also mentioned like the soft tissue injuries, right? So whenever it was sort of the track guys playing football, you'd see a lot of that. If there's one thing that I have heard, it's a criticism of the number of injuries that LSU's had in recent years. Like, how do you attribute that, or what do you say to that?
Well, look, the term injury prevention is kind of a myth. You know, you can't absolutely prevent injuries. You're just doing your best to prepare guys. And then, you know, there's injuries that are preventable, and then there's injuries, you know, Achilles and ACLs and, you know, what impacts sports. It's more the strength and conditioning coach's job is to make sure that these guys are prepared to play, and they're normally judged on, you know, how many minutes the top 22 guys in football and the top 5 guys in basketball or the top 9 guys in baseball can play. And if these guys are losing game time because of hamstring injuries or groin pulls or, things like that, that's when you really turn to the strength and conditioning coach. Nowadays, there's metrics that all of these guys, you have the combine coming up and everybody wants to know how fast this guy's going to run or how many times he can bench 225. The truth is, the biggest, strongest guys don't make the best NFL players. The fastest guys don't make the NFL best players. It's kind of the combination of all of these things. And these strength coaches' job is to make these guys well-rounded athletes. And more than ever, in the NIL world and the amount of money being thrown around in professional sports, they got to keep these guys on the field.
What do you think is you talked about the evolution, right? So from the 80s, it was all the Olympic lifts, and in the 90s, it was Florida State, Miami, all the track guys. As we continue to see this evolution, what do you see on the forefront, right now? What are you all seeing and doing at Traction that probably LSU and others are doing as well?
Yeah, well, we're following the lead of the premier, sports medicine programs in the country. For example, the strength and conditioning coach is now part of the sports medicine team at LSU. They have a sports medicine director, and he's the strength staff and the training staff and the nutritionist and the massage therapist. All these things, the doctors, the team doctors and all are all part of this health staff. And then you have the coaching staff, which is the guys that coach football, and they're kind of two different entities that work together. And, even at Traction with our partnership with Our Lady of the Lake, we're looking at the entire health of the athlete, and they're able to provide us with so many different things that we were unable to provide, for our athletes in the past, that we're super excited about our partnership because we can provide, the full health with, therapy and training and nutrition and, research and, all of the different things that we can do now for the common athlete that, used to be far-fetched for only the elite now is available for everybody. So that's the future of sports. It's the entire sports medicine side it's not just the defensive guy is the strength coach anymore. They have a full, health program for all of these athletes at the highest levels.
And, what's interesting is that you hear a lot of the guys talk because of the contact rules with coaches and players in the off season and, throughout the summer. A lot of times the coaches can't interact with the players on the field. It is the strength coordinator that is kind of running the show, right, during the off season.
Yeah, it's the sports medicine staff. It's the coaches and the trainers and the therapists, and they're the ones that spend all of the time with these athletes, man. And these athletes, live and die by every word and every instruction that they give. Those are the guys, the coaches of these football teams are relying on that staff to make sure that when they start practicing, when they are allowed to have these guys, that they're all full speed and ready to go so that they can prepare for the football season.
He is Mack Chuilli, founder, CEO, director of performance over at Traction, tractionsports.com, shedding some light on the direction that LSU is going here. And, of course, with the big news of Tommy Moffitt joining Texas A&M. It's just going to suck to watch him in maroon and white, man. God, that's going to suck so bad.
It sucks to wear maroon and white, too. You're an MBS guy like me, and I love the school to death, and my daughter went there, but that maroon, man, drove me crazy all those years.
Pelicans, bro. I don't think that's what a Pelican says. All right, Mac, we appreciate it, man. Be well. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.